Hi everyone, welcome back to episode 6 of Self-Care Sundays. It's really lovely if you are joining me. This is the 6th episode already, which is crazy to me. The 6th Sunday in a row that we've met here. So, if you're joining me for Self-Care Sunday this week, thank you. If you're joining me later, thank you. For those of you who are new here, every week I go live and I do a self-care Sunday is what I'm calling it, where basically we spend some time reviewing a different virtue that we could practice for the week just as a way of self-exploration and growth. And then we move into like an activity or some form of relaxation practice. So today we're going to be reviewing a virtue. Don't even know what one it is. And then we're gonna move on to an art activity. So if you're joining me for the art activity today, as I said last time, just some plain paper, whatever paper you've got is great, and then some form of item that you can draw or paint with. Just some way of putting color or lines on a page. So I have markers, but you could use colored pencils, crayons, pens, whatever you got. Even things like watercolor or acrylic if you're feeling really crafty. But these are meant to not be something that you get too in your head about. So it's really just more for like the experience of doing rather than the end result. So if you'd like to stick around for that, I welcome you to join me with that. But for today, we're going to start out with our virtue of today is consideration. Now last week we worked on the virtue of confidence, and I felt like that was a difficult one for me, but we're getting there. And even taking one week to work on something probably means that I'm putting my focus and energy enough into that I've made some improvement, even if I can't see it myself. So if you don't see improvement in just 1 week, just know that a week is a really short amount of time, and it's totally okay if it takes longer than that for you to see any major difference. And also we tend to see like the setbacks way more than the improvements. So if there's been any growth at all, even if that's just you thought about the word confidence twice this week instead of never, that's still something. The one thing that I had noticed is when it says signs of success for confidence, it says you watch yourself without judging. And I could do quite a few of the other things and feel good about them. Like I'm willing to try new things, or, you know, I learn from my mistakes, or all those kinds of things, but the watch yourself without judging was really challenging for me. So if you're trying to work on confidence, think about watching yourself without judging yourself, and replace those thoughts with maybe like, oh, I notice I'm judging myself. What's maybe a neutral statement that I could say about this? If a positive statement feels like too hard and like you're lying to yourself, maybe try a neutral statement. Like, I tried that. I did that. So this week's virtue is consideration. Consideration is having regard for other people and their feelings. It is thinking about how your actions affect them and caring about how they feel. Oh, that's good. We already practiced caring. But yeah, we can keep building on that. Consideration is thoughtfulness. It is paying attention to what other people like and don't like, and then doing things that give them happiness. Consideration is giving the same importance to others' likes and dislikes as you do to your own. When you have different tastes, consideration means that you don't try to convince other people that they are wrong and that you are right. You respect their feelings. Consideration is giving thought to the needs of others. And I really like that balance of giving the same importance to the like others and yourself. Because sometimes people can fall into, oh, I'm trying to consider myself, and they fall too deeply into that, or the considering of others and falling too deeply into that side of it. So the consideration of both others and yourself in equal proportions is really interesting. And then on the next page, it talks a little bit about why you should practice consideration and then how you can practice consideration. And it says, consideration begins by noticing how your actions are affecting other people. You find out what they like and don't like, and then consider their feelings. When you are considerate, you act as if others are just as important as you are. Consideration is asking yourself things like, will this hurt or disturb someone else? If the answer is yes, think of creative ways to do what you want, and at the same time respect other people's rights. So it continues. If you'd like the pages on consideration, send me a message. I've got them. And then the signs and success of consideration are you respect other people's needs and feelings. You feel that other people's views are as important as your own. You stop and think about how your actions will affect others. You are quiet when people are concentrating or sleeping. You put yourself in other people's shoes. You give tender attention, and you think of little things which bring others happiness. And I'm really grateful that I have a lot of really considerate people in my life who have really taken me into account when I didn't even take myself into account. So maybe also try to notice, are other people considerate of you? And how can you be considerate of them back? Because it's kind of this rolling thing where if you give someone else consideration, then they're so much more likely to give you consideration, and it kind of invites everybody who's involved to jump on board with that. And I think that's really cool. And in the opposite way too, if you're not considerate of others, then they kind of think, well, why should I be considerate of this person if they're not of me? And so you kind of set the ball rolling for what you get back. In some schools of thought, that's called karma, you know? But I think on a deeper level, it is interesting. It is interesting to consider other people and to have them consider you back. The affirmation for this week is, I am considerate of others. I think about how my actions affect them. I think of thoughtful things which bring happiness to others. I'll read it one more time. I am considerate of others. I think about how my actions affect them. I think of thoughtful things which brings happiness to others. And I would also add yourself. Typically, it has a nice side effect of bringing happiness to yourself. So consideration this week is the virtue that I'm focusing on. As always, you can join me in that one, or if that's not something that you would like to work on, choose a different one. Choose a different virtue to work on. Before we get into our little crafty craft, I also thought, I was thinking a little bit about virtues this week and why they're important. And I was reading in another book that's very similar to this one. I think it might even be by the same author. But she was writing that virtues and values are very similar, but they're distinctly different because values are more about what you think is important, and what is more, I don't know, I guess just more important to you as an individual, whereas virtues, excuse me, virtues are more just overall things that we can, as a community and as a society, see as consistent ways of being and as like an overall society's values. So virtues are something that you might not necessarily value each individual one, and that's okay, but you can still practice them, because by practicing them you can decide what your own values are. Because if I never practiced cleanliness, for example, as a virtue, I might not even realize that that's something that's important to me. So just giving them all a try can be really helpful to determine your own values, and also can help you realize that other people's values may be different than yours. So somebody else may value peacefulness as their primary value, right? but your virtues and your values that you may want are a little bit different. So practicing virtues can kind of help us see the good in others and also the good in ourselves and also where there's room for improvement. So I think that's really interesting. I was thinking a little bit about that this week, especially because we're kind of this is week 6. So I've been thinking about virtues in general, and I wanted to kind of wrap it in a little bit as to what's the point, Lizzy? Like, what is the point? Why are you reading us? Like, I don't want to be preachy about them. I just want to be inviting, because I think there's something really interesting to take a look at as a way of self-growth. Okay, let's move on to our little craft for the day. So as kind of we move on to the craft, again, paper, something to draw with. And I'd like you to start by picking a color that you like. Literally doesn't matter what color it is. It can be any color that you like. I don't like this one. I'm gonna go with pink. That's what I'm in the mood for today. I like pink. And the first side of our paper seems kind of scary because it's totally blank. And that's okay that it's totally scary because it's blank. I feel you. I've been there. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take our little... Actually, I'm gonna use the bigger side of this marker so that you guys can see it better when I'm done. Take your marker. Put it on the paper. Just straight down. And now your paper isn't blank anymore, because if you take it up, you've got a dot. And that dot is a really great starting point. And I want you to just scribble on the paper. Just let this paper be an experience for the day. You can use different colors, you can use the same colors, you can do different kinds of lines, you can do dots, just kind of whatever comes to you. And just a reminder, it's printer paper. It's okay if that's just part of the experience and if you throw it away after. But sometimes it's just kind of fun to feel the way that the marker is on the paper. So here's mine. My beautiful piece of Picasso art. And you can keep going if you want. You can switch to a different color. I'm going to switch to a different color. I'm going to do this one. And it's totally okay if this takes a shape of something, but we don't need to panic about what we're going to draw. We're just drawing for the sake of drawing, and it's totally fine if you love it and you want to put it on your wall, or the opposite. Yeah, I don't know why. I just made like this huge X of circles. That's kind of interesting. I don't know why I did that. I don't need to analyze it. I'm just doing. And once you've taken 2 colors, maybe 3, I'm going to do a 3rd color. Yeah. And it's just scribbles. Good. There's my beautiful scribbles. And now my paper isn't blank anymore. And, you know, there's a lot of art out there that costs $1 million that looks like this. So congratulate yourself for making a $1 million work of art. And now we're going to move on. If yours has soaked through, you can choose to take a new piece of paper. Otherwise, you can do it on the back. We're going to move on to the next portion. I'm going to take a new piece of art, new piece of paper. I have this really cool art therapy techniques book that I was reading today, and I kind of wanted to try some, so I'm inviting you all to try this with me if you would like to. You don't have to share this with anybody. If you want to, you can absolutely do that. We're gonna do brain waves. Draw your brain waves. Think about your thought patterns, the way that your brain appears to function. For example, are your thoughts chaotic or calm? Are you able to control your thoughts, or do they run rampant? Do they tend to be positive or negative? Do you tend to think clearly, or are you forgetful and disorganized? Do you often act impulsively, or do you take time to process first and then act? So, the questions for exploration with this are, what do your brain waves look like? For instance, are they wavy, smooth, bright, or dull? Do the waves reflect your thoughts and or personality? Have the waves changed recently? So just kind of think about what your thought patterns have been like, and then just draw them out. Again, it doesn't have to be super precise and perfect. It's just an overall feeling or experience. So take a marker, whatever one you feel like kind of. You can use multiple colors. You can use not a marker. And just start drawing your brain waves. I'm gonna give it like a couple more seconds here to finish up. Okay, great. We don't need to take forever with this. There's my brain waves. Interpret that however you will. I just want to make you feel like you're not alone and with whatever you drew. If yours looks totally different than mine, that's awesome. But that's my brain waves. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Now we're going to flip it over. Actually, I might use the other one. I should have gotten more paper. Yeah, we'll do this one. We're going to flip it over and use the back. We're going to fold it in half so that our brain waves are in the middle. There we go. Okay. So you should have a little book with your brain waves in the middle, and we're going to open it up and place it face down. That's just so we have a line in the middle. And then we're going to go on to the next one. And this is the last one I wanted to do for today. I just think this is another really good one. It says, fold a piece of paper in half. On one side, represent one thing you like about yourself, and on the other side, draw one thing you would like to change. You can also write this if you don't feel like super confident in your ability to put your feelings on paper with just color. You can use words. Sometimes I feel like removing the specific aspect of like oh, I need to draw it perfectly can be really helpful. So if that includes just using words, you're welcome to do that as well. But for people who like to try representing something in kind of an art form, go for it. So one thing that you like about yourself, and on the other side, draw one thing you would like to change. Notice it doesn't say something you hate about yourself. Let's not hate ourselves. It says one thing you would like to change. And what do you like about yourself and what do you want to change? Which side of the paper is emphasized? And how can you begin changing undesirable actions, lifestyles, relationships, and or traits? So let's just start by drawing the one thing you like about yourself and one thing that you would like to change. I'll just give it a minute here for us to do that. Okay, I'm just going to give it a couple more seconds here for you to draw one thing that you like about yourself and one thing that you would like to change. And then we'll just take a little look at it and just notice. How did it end up? I don't like to take too long with these exercises because sometimes we can like really get too involved in it and be really focused on, oh, I need to make it right. But this is, again, more about the experience of doing this. So we drew the one thing that we like about ourselves, or you could do multiple things. Just something that you like about yourselves, things that you like about yourself on one side, and things you would like to change on the other. And then the way that this ended up for me was, well, I've got my random coloring on the back, so, but this was the side, sorry, I've got two cameras happening. This was the side that was things I liked about myself. Yeah, okay, it's just really showing through. I drew a little spiral, and then I put little flowers all over it. So that's that side. And then the thing I wanted to change about myself, interestingly enough, also ended up being a spiral, but it ended up kind of being a spiky spiral. So I put the thing that I like about myself and I would like to continue growing with is like being creative. I find that being creative really helps me feel good about myself, and it helps me kind of just get emotions and experiences and things out of my body and onto a more physical platform so that they're not stuck in my brain. But then on the other side, I drew this spiral, and I think it was interesting because, like, I started out with a blue marker, and it was running out of ink. And so then I grabbed another blue marker, and that was also running out of ink and looked like the same color. So as I drew my spiral, it was just running out of ink. And I was thinking about how, and then I grabbed the black marker, and that was also running out of ink. And none of the things on the good side of things I like about myself, none of those markers ran out of ink. They were all like so vibrant. And I thought that was really interesting because we tend to be really hard on ourselves. And I think that that's just interesting symbolism for me. And I'm going to take that and run with it. But one of the questions, I'm going to read the questions again because I like to hear things multiple times. What do you like about yourself and what do you want to change? Which side of the paper is emphasized? And how can you begin changing undesirable actions, lifestyles, relationships, and or traits? So I think that's interesting because sometimes we focus so much on changing ourselves that we forget to experience and enjoy the parts of ourselves that are good. And for me, in my experiment, the side that I liked about myself ended up being more clear than the side that I didn't like about myself. But visually, when I look at it, I'm kind of drawn to the darker colors. And I find that when I spiral into that portion of myself, it's really hard to get out of. So maybe utilizing those creative experiences when I notice that I'm starting to go down that spiral would help me go down this other spiral of being creative. I don't know. Those are just my thoughts about my experience with this activity. Definitely do a little reflecting about your own. If you'd like to share them, I'd love to hear about it. And if you'd like to keep that to yourself for your own personal growth, do it. Absolutely. That's everything I have for today. So, here it is. This week we're going to work on consideration. And I encourage you to, if you feel so called, scribble a little bit every day, even if it's on the same piece of paper or if it's on different pieces. Sometimes I like to cut up a paper so I have a whole bunch of little squares, and then I just draw a bunch of different things on each little square because then it feels less scary because there's less giant white space and it's more just like a whole bunch of little white space on the paper. And it feels less scary to, like, just ruin one little piece, which you're never ruining anything if you're experiencing it, in my opinion. Then it does the full sheet, so you could give that a try as well. And on that note, I always like to end with I love you all. Thank you for joining me. This, as always, will be posted, and I hope you have a lovely week. And let me know what your thoughts were on confidence from last week and consideration for this week. Start your Monday off good. Okay. Bye, everybody. See you next time. See you next Sunday.